Namaskar. Welcome to the second part of the poem Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats. Dear friends, in the first part, we read that the poet is disgruntled with, dissatisfied with his own world, the world which he inhabits. And he wants to get himself transported into the world of the nightingale. He says, the real world in which I inhabit is full of problems, difficulties, where people are not bound to each other by a sense of love, where love decays, where people are affected by palsy or paralysis, where young men who are supposed to be vibrant and energetic are lying, without any energy. So this is not the type of world I want to inhabit. I want to leave this world and get transported to your world. Now, how would I go there? Through the wings of poesy, through the wings of my poetry. So I seek inspiration from the muses. Let us go to the second part. I can't see what flowers at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs. Incense is the sweet smell, fragrance. He can't see the flowers, what flowers grow at his feet. This is springtime, and therefore the time when flowers bloom, but he can't see in the darkness, in the surrounding darkness. So he says, I can't see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs. Now, if I can't see what flowers there are, but there is an incense, there is a sweet smell, there is a fragrance that hangs about around me. Upon the bough is the branch. Which tree is producing this incense, this smell, the fragrance? I can't see that. But in embalmed darkness as if has been used as a balm, as an ointment. In the past, actually, when to preserve dead bodies, a kind of balm was used on them. Ointment sort of thing was used on them, embalmed. The dead bodies were embalmed so that they would not rot or decay. So look at the imagery that he creates here, as if darkness has been embalmed on everything. There is a layer of darkness on everything. It is evening time, late in the evening. So as if a kind of darkness has been embalmed on everything. Guess its sweet wherein the seasonable month endows. Okay, but I can only guess. I can only guess what smell it is, what fragrance it is, what flower might be, there might be at my feet, wherewith the seasonable month endows. This is the time of the year. Spring is the time of the year when flowers bloom, and therefore I can only guess what flowers are there. From the smell, I can guess what flowers might be there in the vicinity, in the surrounding area. The grass, the thicket, the fruit tree wild, I can't see them. I can only guess them. I can only guess what might be around me. The bushes, the grass, the fruit bearing trees, all these are there, but I can guess them. I can't see them. The white hawthorn. Hawthorn is a fruit bearing deciduous tree. White hawthorn. The pastoral eglantine. Eglantine is a European rose with hooked spines. Spines are hooked, bent. Fast fading, for sound repeated, alliteration. Violets, some violet, you know, flowers covered up in the leaves. I can guess. It is a mixture of an assortment of scents, different scents, different fragrances taken together, assortment. Okay, so I can guess that these are the different plants, different flower bearing and fruit bearing trees that grow in the vicinity. So I can guess they are there. And mid May's eldest child, the coming mosque rose. Okay, the coming mosque rose. It is the eldest child of mid May. It is full of mosque rose. Mosque rose is a rambling rose with large white musk scented flowers. Oh, I mean, it's a flowering tree. Full of dewy wine. Dew. Dew has gathered on them. Huh. Or they can be full of, when the flowers bloom, insects come and collect honey from them. So it is like wine for them, um, for the bees and other honey collecting insects. The murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. This is the murmurous haunt. Murmur is the noise that they produce when they gather. Bees buzz. Bees buzz. So this is a place which which is frequented by honey collecting bees, flies. Okay, so I cannot see these, but I can only guess from the sweet fragrance that hangs about in the air. So there are pastoral eglantines, there are hawthorns, there are some violet flowers, the mosque rose, full of dewy wine. So you just can imagine certain images are, you can see certain images, visual images. Okay, when I say murmur, you can hear some noise, auditory image that is created. Okay, when I say dewy wine, you can, or fragrance hangs about uh, in the air. So you can smell. Tactile is touch. Something is very soft, so you can touch it. And olfactory, olfactory, olfactory images are the images related to sense of smell. Olfactory images. The poet says, I can smell, although I cannot see, I can smell the fragrance of the flowers, an assortment of flowers, different types of flowers here growing. Okay, so this is a murmurous haunt. This is a place where bees gather and murmur. Onomatopoeic word. Onomatopoeic, just as bees buzz. Buzz is the word B-U-Z-Z. That is how the word is pronounced. And that is the real sound that the bees make. So this is an onomatopoeic word. So murmurous is also murmur. Soft murmur of the um, bees. So this is the place that he describes, full of nature. These people worship nature. So a question might come, how it is a poem of nature? Oh, darkling, I listen. Darkling, I listen. Who is the darkling? Okay, is the nightingale. So he is as if addressing the nightingale as darkling because it's not visible. I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with easeful death. So, what is the meaning of easeful death? So, easeful is something that provides comfort, peace. You know, Nightingale, listen to me. Many a time this thought of death has come to my mind. Deathhood, I have often romanticized death. I have thought of death, called him soft names. Called him means whom? Called death as if, so this is personification, as if death is a human beings. In many a mused rhyme, many of the poems that I have written, in many of my poems I have addressed him. Come, 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 O death, come to me. Okay, to take into the air my quiet breath. Okay, so in my poetry, in many of my poems I have written about, I have addressed death and asked him to take my breath quietly away. Take my breath quietly away so that I will die. So, in many of my poems, I have addressed death. I have requested him to take me away silently, just as death comes silently and takes, life breath away. Similarly, I have requested it as if it's a human being to come silently and take me away. Now more than ever, it ever seems it reached to die, to seize upon the midnight with no pain. So now that you are singing in a full-throated ease, in a full-throated voice, and now that I feel there is no pain, now that I am completely transported into your world, now that I am enchanted, now that I can feel no pain, this is the right time for me to die. Okay, the poet says, this is the right time for me to die and to bring an end to this life of mine, this suffering of mine. So once I die, the suffering will end forever. While thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy is joy. When you are singing in such a delightful voice, in a joyous voice like this is the best time to die. Because I will not feel any pain. I feel absolutely no pain. All my sufferings seem as if they have ended. So this is the best time, most appropriate time for me to die. O darkling, O nightingale, you know. So death wish is expressed here. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have years in vain, to thy high requiem become a sod. Now if I died, you would continue your singing. Your singing will not come to an end. And I have years in vain, but my years will be of no use, because once you die, your eyes are of no use. You can't see anything, you can't hear anything, so your ears are of no use. Your mouth is of no use because you can't eat anything. So I have years in vain. To thy high requiem. Requiem is a mass for the dead. Mass, MSS, mass for the dead, where people gather to sing praises of the dead. To thy high requiem become a sword. And what is a sword? Sword is an unpleasant and obnoxious person. So your song, you might be singing a requiem, but that will be of no use. You might be singing a death song, but that will be of no use, because I won't be able to hear anything. I won't be able to hear anything. I am mortal, but you are not mortal. Thou wasn't born for death, immortal bird. He calls the nightingale immortal bird. You are immortal. You are not subjected to death. I can die because I am mortal. Thou wasn't born for death, immortal bird. No hungry generations trade thee down. So nobody can kill you. Nobody can take you to task. Nobody can put you in trouble. Immortal body, you are immortal. So there can be a question. Immortality of art versus the nightingale song is immortal. Why is the nightingale immortal? Because the Nightingale's song is immortal. I am a mortal. I will die. I am subjected to death and decay. You are not subjected to death and decay. So, mortality versus immortality. That is the theme of the poem. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperors and clowns. The voice which I hear today was here years ago by emperors and clowns, jokers. Okay, this same song was heard by them. So in those days also, such a full-throated voice was heard. So your song is immortal. You are an immortal bird. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth. Ruth is actually there is an allusion to, this is called allusion, referring to a reference to the biblical story from Bible. Okay, so your voice has not changed, your song has not changed even since the days of the Bible. When sick for home, Ruth stood in tears among the alien corn. Ruth, you know, is a character in the Bible. She remains loyal to her mother-in-law, Naomi. After the death of her husband, and in-laws, Naomi decides to return to her homeland of Bethlehem alone. However, Ruth insists on staying with her and adopting Naomi's God as her own. So there is a reference to this biblical story. When her husband died and she was returning with her mother-in-law, Naomi, this voice was heard. When she stood in tears, crying amid the alien corn in a foreign land, in the cornfields in a foreign land, the same song was heard by her. So, your song has survived centuries. Your song is immortal. I am a mortal human being. The same that oft times, mean many times, hath charmed magic casements, windows. Okay. Opening on the foam of perilous seas, perilous, dangerous seas. On the foam is the lather that is formed, that is formed on the waves of the seas. So in some magic casement, magic window, this song was visible. Even in the middle of the perilous seas, the dangerous seas, your voice was heard. Okay? And also in fairy lands forlorn. Forlorn is lonely. In lonely fairy lands, in lands where the fairies dwell, fairies live, your voice was also heard. So your voice was heard in ancient days where emperors and clowns lived. Your song was heard by Ruth when she was returning home through the cornfields. Your voice was heard, your song was heard through the magic casements, magic windows in perilous seas, dangerous seas, and also in fairy lands, lonely fairy lands. Okay, forlorn, the very word is like a bell to toll me back from thee to my soul safe. Forlorn is alone and unhappy, left alone and uncared for. Okay, left alone and uncared for. So, so when I think of this word, it takes me back. It is like a bell. This word is like a bell that told me back, to take me back. Its sound takes me back, reminds me of how alone, how lonely I am, how uncared for I am. So it takes me from your world into my world, from the imaginary world of yours to my real world. I am transported back to my real world. Because in my real world, forlorn, lonely, and uncared for has a lot of meaning. There, everybody is lonely and uncared for. Adieu. Bye. Goodbye. The fancy cannot cheat so well as he is famed to do. Deceiving elf, again he is addressing fancy as the deceiving elf. A super elf is a supernatural creature. Cheating, one deceiving is cheating. So imagination, okay, imagination is a cheat. For the last few hours or for the last few minutes, I was imagining. But imagination, fancy is a cheat. It cheats like the elves it deceives like the elves in the supernatural stories. Adieu, adieu, bye bye. The plaintive anthem fades past the near meadows over the still stream up the hillside, and now it's buried deep in the next valley glades. So suddenly the voice sounds very sad. Suddenly the voice sounds very sad because the nightingale flies away. Perhaps the nightingale flies away. So the voice, you know, where it flies away, the anthem fades because it flies away. The song, the complaining song, the sad song fades. Past the meadows, it goes beyond the meadows, over this still stream, sa alliteration. There is a stream, still stream, it's not flowing because of, you know, spring. Up the hillside, this is where the nightingale disappears. And now it's buried deep in the next valley glades. Glade is a small area of grass. So there it is buried. You go and sit there somewhere amid the next valley, in some tree on the next valley. Okay. Then the poet says, was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music. Music is already gone. Huh. So was it a vision? Was it not real? Was I only imagining things? Am I in a wake up state? Or am I awake or asleep? Am I waking up or am I still sleeping? So ଯେମିତି ତମର ସ୍ୱପ୍ନଟା ଭାଙ୍ଗିଗଲା ସ୍ୱପ୍ନ ଭାଙ୍ଗିଲା ପରେ ତମେ କହୁଛ ଆରେ ଏଇଟା ସତରେ ମୁଁ ସେ ଭୋଜିକି ଯାଇଥିଲି and I was eating some ରସଗୁଲ୍ଲାସ୍ ରସଗୁଲ୍ଲା ଖାଇବା ପୂର୍ବରୁ ମା ଉଠେଇଦେଲା ତ ରସଗୁଲ୍ଲାସ୍ were real I was just imagining of ରସଗୁଲ୍ଲାସ୍. So similar kind of thing. So he's saying good night nightingale. Okay. So imagination goes, imagination is over. Now I am back into the real world. So there can be a question on what is an ode and what are the characteristics of an ode and how far this poem displays the characteristics of an ode. It is in the ode is usually in the form of an address, and this is called this address. What the poet is trying to do here? The poet is addressing the nightingale. He is addressing the nightingale. Okay, apostrophe. This is called apostrophe. This figure of speech is called apostrophe. O light winds dryad, he says. O immortal bird, he says. So there are different phrases which he uses to address the nightingale. So it is often in the form of an address to some abstraction. Abstraction is something that is not concrete. The poet is not able to see the nightingale, but he only guesses that the night from its voice he guesses that the nightingale must be there. Okay. Ode has an emotional intensity and it's a spontaneous overflow of the poet's emotions. Its theme is dignified and exalted. It's not a so the ode has high seriousness as one of the characteristics. What the poet is talking about here? The poet is talking about death, talking about mortality, talking about immortality, talking about fancy, talking about imagination, talking about a world full of pains, talking about an imaginary world. So these are not small things that he is talking about. So the subject matter is high serious. Okay. Style is equally elevated. So it is written in a style that is equally elevated, and it is also sufficiently long to allow for the full development of the dignified theme. So the theme is dignified and the language is befitting, and language fits the theme. The theme is dignified. এই ସବୁ ওয়ার্ড যেମିତି death, mortality, immortality, এই ସବୁ କଥା ଗୁଡାକ, these are not normal things that one talks about. These are dignified things. So language is dignified like the theme. The the development of the thought is logical and clear. So these are some of the characteristics of an ode, and you might be asked a question on uh, how far this is an ode, and there will also be another question on um, how nature has been represented in this poem, and another question can be mortality versus immortality, how this has been represented in this poem. So I hope this helps you understanding. Thank you very much.